This is LOA Recon with Good Vibe Coach Jeanette Ma, where we explore the ins and outs of conscious creation to manifest our favorite dreams come true. Let's have some fun together. Welcome and thank you for joining me for another episode. I heard something from Abraham the other day that I liked so much, I wanted to put an extra spotlight on it, mostly to remind myself, so the next time I feel like I've got a tough decision to make, I know that means one thing, that I'm not aligned to what I want. Because when we're lined up with our desire, our path forward becomes clear. We're not tormented by wondering which way to go, what's the right path. When we're partnered with guidance, we know. We are led. We're not stuck with heavy questions or tricky evaluations or reviewing a list of pros and cons that we have to weigh. We know which way feels better, and that's the one we choose. It's obvious. The way Abraham put it was, we would never make a hard decision. We would never make a hard decision because if it feels like a hard decision to you, you are not lined up and it doesn't matter what you choose. It's not taking you where you want to go. Instead, they advised us to take the time to get lined up first because the way forward becomes clear when we do that. So I think that's worth remembering. In fact, right now I'm leading a manifesting fitness series at GVU. It's 10 different exercises that measure our manifesting fitness. And the fourth one is the ability to focus on our desire. How long can we maintain a pure positive focus on what we want? That's a little tricky if we haven't practiced it, it turns out, because it's easy for our attention to slip over to why we need it. You know, what the problem is that needs solving, how bad it's going to be if we don't get this resolved. All those sorts of thoughts that just activate more of the contrast instead of the desire. I mention it because being able to focus on what we want for a minute or so is one powerful way to line up with our desire. But honestly, anything that feels better is in service of our vibrational upgrade. So changing your point of focus to anything more positive is another way to align. Doing something you enjoy is yet another way. That's just answering the call of inspiration, which is always taking us up the scale. To be aligned to what we want just means we're in the upper part of the vibrational scale, meaning we feel good instead of feeling bad, or we're feeling clear or hopeful or happy instead of discouraged or afraid or angry. Which is why it makes sense that when we're facing a hard decision, our feeling state at that point is subpar, to say the least. Look, let's take it out of theory and into practice. Wow, one of my favorite personal examples of this. I've told this story before, but it's been a while. I was in a relationship and I had been there for a while and I wasn't sure whether I should break up with that guy or not. I wasn't having the best time, but I just wasn't sure. Should I stay or should I go was my theme song. Because sometimes with him we're fabulous and sometimes we're not. Sometimes I loved him dearly. Other times I was throwing my laptop at his head. I asked girlfriends for their opinion. I asked channelers. One day I was in a private session with Pata and I said, look, because I know the state of my relationship as a result of my focus, because when I focus on good things about him, when I make a point of appreciating him, we have a great time. But when my focus slips and I'm not loving him as much, it really feels like I'm not supposed to be in this relationship. This is not where I belong. So I told Pata, I know this is just a failing on my part of not being able to appreciate him better. And that's why I'm not sure it's him. I think it's me and my inability to focus on good things for long periods of time. And Pata said, look, it shouldn't be that hard to appreciate your partner. That felt like truth to me. But still, I didn't know. Still, I wondered, should I stay or should I go? Because we had a lot of time invested in each other and I didn't take it lightly to walk away after that much time. What's that called? The sunk cost fallacy, where we stay in something longer than we should just because of how much we've invested in it. Okay, anyway, eventually I got tired of doing this ridiculous routine of not knowing, and I realized what I need to do here is get aligned. I need to get happy first, because when I tune into happily ever after, the way will become clear. Either we will have a most amazing time, or I will know that he is not the one for me anymore. I had been practicing before focusing on positive aspects of him, but this time I was just going to focus on positive aspects of life. Like just imagine happily ever after and things would become obvious. Because I was trying to make the decision from a place of confusion and uncertainty, and that was a mix of vibrations flowing, some loving, some not so much. I knew that when I cleaned that up, I would get an answer. At least in theory, that's how this is supposed to work. And you know what? This is true no matter what we're deciding, whether it's to have the surgery or not, or quit the job, or get a job, or move the family to a new city, or euthanize our pet, or whatever the hard decision is. This process of lining up with how we want to feel first can help answer any tough questions we're facing. So I practiced the vibration of happily ever after. I imagined it. I remembered when I'd felt that way before. And every time that question of what am I going to do came up, I just set it aside and practiced feeling happily ever after. It felt like contentment, satisfaction, delight, fulfillment. I mean, I knew how to take myself there. This is what our imaginations are for. So I did that pretty well, and it did not take long before clarity dawned on me. I think it was like 3 or 4 days. Something happened that probably wouldn't make sense to anyone else, but it was a crystal clear sign to me. He had dug up my St. John's wort that I had been trying to grow for a while. He had dug it up before. It was an accident. We talked about it. We had a plan that he would not pull weeds anymore without my supervision. I had actually just said, just let me do the weed pulling. You don't even have to pull any weeds. I'll do all the weeding. You don't ever have to do anything because it's hard for you to tell the difference between my baby St. John's wort and the weeds. So we had a plan. That had been a while ago. And then I activated happily ever after. And one day I went out to the garden to go water my St. John's wort, which was not there anymore. He had pulled it. After I had spent so much time babying it in the Utah summer heat, trying to keep it alive through triple-digit temperatures because it wasn't established yet, because I had to replant it, and I had just been pouring so much TLC onto those baby plants, and it was gone. He had pulled it again. Oh, in that moment, I wasn't even mad. I just knew. I had a calm, clear heart. It was like clarity descended on me literally from above. It just settled on me, and I knew that this was not for me anymore. I wasn't even angry. It wasn't heated. I wasn't sad. I was just clear is what I was. In that moment, it was no longer a hard decision. It was obvious, and I felt nothing but calm and confident about it. And that night, when he came home from work and I had to talk with him, I did it. It wasn't a racing heart or shaky hands. It was the most calm, cool, collected breakup conversation I've ever had. It was mature. It was healthy. It was connected and engaged, or at least on my part it was. It was amazing. No drama, no tears, no second guessing or regrets or leaving any doors open. Oh, it was fabulous. For me, anyway. He wasn't exactly on that same page, but I stayed plugged into my happily ever after vibration, and I had to learn to let him do this how he wanted to do it. I only get to choose for myself. He gets to choose for himself, and whatever he chooses is okay. I get to choose for me. He chooses for him. That's fine. I had to remember that because at first I had judgment that I wasn't manifesting a smooth, loving breakup like I wanted. But he gets to do it his way. I get to do it mine. I just kept reminding myself that. Anyway, that was one clear example of how a tough decision became really easy once I practiced alignment first. So anytime you're facing a hard decision, maybe that's a signal for you to practice some alignment first, because once you do that, once you practice having what you want or feeling better in any way, the way forward is going to become clear. No tough decisions are required. You probably know this yourself from your own practice, but I thought it was worth remembering. All right, I hope you got some inspiration from tuning in. Thanks for listening, and happy manifesting.